the president making those remarks in the Hamptons, according to Bloomberg, saying that he had some suspicions that Jay Powell wasn't necessarily doing the right thing in terms of interest rate hikes going forward. This is a criticism that the president has made before, including to Joe Kernan in an on-camera interview earlier this year. Here's what the president said back then.
I put a very good man in the Fed. I don't necessarily agree with it because he's raising interest rates. I'm not saying that I agree with it, and I don't necessarily agree with it. I must tell you, I don't. I'm not thrilled because, you know, we go up, and every time you go up, they want to raise rates again. And I don't really, I am not happy about it. But at the same time, I'm letting them do what they feel is best.
You know, Michelle, my sense here is that the president really wants the Fed to hold off on those interest rate increases, worrying that it could harm the recovery overall. And one of the things that you look at in the history of presidents dealing with the Fed is you've seen presidents who've been frustrated with their Fed chiefs in the past over exactly this issue, raising interest rates, and whether or not that will harm the recovery or the economy at the time. But this president doesn't necessarily view the convention of sort of presidential deference toward a Fed chief the same way other recent presidents have viewed it, and some more viewing it as something of a Washington norm that's about set for disruption. So this is a president who is unafraid to say what he thinks and sort of let the chips fall where they may. And this is another example, according to Bloomberg, of the president doing that over the weekend in the Hamptons, telling some donors at a political event that he's skeptical of the Fed's strategy here, guys.
Yeah, that report actually supposedly sent the dollar lower, according to the wires, Eamon, which would suggest that there are traders who are being influenced. If you think interest rates aren't going to go up as much, then you don't think the dollar is going to go up as much, right? So it's a natural reaction if you believe it, even though we've seen so many commentators say there's no way that Powell is going to be affected by the president.
Well, that's what you have to get into, is the dynamic between the two men, right? I mean, if the president is signaling this both publicly and privately on camera and at these private events where he knows it's likely to get back to Jerome Powell, is Powell going to respond to that? Does he view this as a directive from the boss, or does he view this as simply political noise that he has to navigate through as he does what he thinks is important to do for the economy? If you're going to bet on this financially, the bet is on the relationship, not on the rhetoric of what they're saying publicly.